I move to approve the agenda as presented. Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor? say
Aye.
Aye.
Approval of the minutes of April 4th, 23. Need a motion?
I'll move. Second, Doug.
Motion made to approve the minutes from the April 4th meeting. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Public comment.
I got a call from Mr. Hazard. He's got COVID and he had planned on coming today. But he said COVID, he didn't want to address it.
Who you talking about?
Dual hazard on this home court deal. He went out, he was on a trip and came back with COVID.
Okay.
He was sick.
So 14 is gone, is what you're saying?
No, he was just gonna speak on comments.
Oh. On the agenda.
Okay, hearing none. I don't see any other supervisors. Update from Administrator Netherland.
Yeah, just a couple of small, short things here. We talked at the last board meeting a little bit about the budget process. We're keeping our eyes and ears open regarding what the state may do with their surplus budget. My gut and what I'm hearing is telling me that, yes, we will get some additional money. But it also tells me it's not as much as we thought. It seems like everybody's kind of dipping their hands into the pot, suggesting ideas, and as versions keep coming forward, it sounds like it's going to be a rather modest sharing. We're not going to, look a gift horse in the mouth by any means, but we will have to continue to be conservative in our approach. And as we start our budgeting process now, when you think about the wage study that's forthcoming, actually started underway, and some adjustments we're going to have to make to different various wages. We're going to have to be very tight on our non-employee expense areas. So we will be looking at, in every committee and every department, ways that we can keep a lid on our expenses. But that's, our challenge this year. Regarding trails, I did, just to let this group know, I know we worked a lot with ATVs, snowmobilers, and other groups. We did have a request from the equestrian clubs here in Polk County that they would like to enter into an MOU with the county. And this one would be maybe similar to the one we recently did with the Friends of the Gandy. It's where we express our joint interest in maintaining quality trails and maintaining them in a way, and we share information and help each other out when we can. But very happy to hear that they're interested in doing this. The other thing we hear a lot about, and this is, I don't have a lot of details on this other than to say we've heard so much about how tough it is to hire people, which it is, that the employee market is not going to be like it was in the foreseeable future. On the other hand, Don Wortham and his area with the new hire of Kim and HR, she came in the office the other day, and we have hired just recently, and maybe Don knows within how many weeks, 21 people. That's an impressive number when you consider what we have been doing, and now all of a sudden by speeding up our process, changing some tactics, following up with the candidates faster, making an offer faster. I think, we're starting to see some improvements in our hiring success rate. So I thought that was a good, and we'll be getting more information on that, but I heard that yesterday. I thought I'd share that with you. That's all I have for now.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair, can I mention something about new money? And I just recently attended for steering committee. Can I make comment on new money? I don't see anything else on here as far as supervisor. Well, there's two resolutions. One is Governor Ever's budget to reinstate, and Jay, you remember when we pretty much always balanced the budget for years on shared revenue. And the governor has a proposal in his budget for 20% of the sales tax money to go into a new shared revenue plan. The Republicans also have a plan. I don't know, we didn't have a figure on that. So it'll have to go to a conference committee. Sometimes something good comes out of a conference committee and sometimes nothing comes out. But I just wanted to put that out there that there is a pretty nice proposal to take a good percentage out of the sales tax and reinstituting the shared revenue. See where it goes. In the conference committee now.
Okay. Then, Mr. Norby, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll start with project updates, just to go over a couple that I haven't reported on lately. The bell tower, the asbestos was removed up in the bell tower on the 24th, week of the 24th. Still waiting and coordinating to get the windows replaced up there. So that project is getting closer to completion up there. The JC roof project is going to start here in the next couple weeks. Contractor has already been stockpiling materials next to the government center, working on that. The emergency generator for the government center did come in. They hope to fire that up this Thursday. So hopefully once we get our switch gears, our switches in, circuit breakers, we'll be able to fire up the chillers and have AC when we need it here in the building. So that's moving along.
November, right?
Quite well right now. In Parks area, the online reservation system, we're working with IT and Clara on getting all that up. Hope to have that system online by Memorial Day for reservations for the park. D.D. Kennedy signed the contract with Cedar Corp for the replacement of the walking bridge. That's in progress. They came out to drill the soil borings already, so that should be moving along in design. The docks are out now for opener at all our sites, so we're ready for fishing. Got the word for the amenities at D.D. Kennedy, the new bathroom and stuff. That's been ordered. It looks like an August timeframe for the installation of the new restrooms out there. Right now, we pulverized County Road P from US 63 to County Road A. That's been pulverized. We fine grade starting tomorrow, and paving starts May 8th on Monday. On that section, we'll knock off one of our first, and that's an LRIP project with additional funding from the state on that of $350,000 for a discretionary project. So that's moving forward. High waters have hindered us on some of the stuff we've had. We've had a lot of culverts we've been replacing on stub D. We had several go out in the rain there, 3 36-inch pipes. We had 184-inch, one fail, semi-fail last night on County Double J. We're temporarily fixing that. We don't have to close the road though on that one. And we had 2 on I that from spring runoff that we still have repairs to do on there. US 63 project started off with Larson Construction is working on the pedestrian bypass underneath in Clear Lake, underneath the highway. That's supposed to be done by Clear Lake days. That's the goal for that one. And the intersection of 60th Avenue right now is closed east and west as they redo that intersection for the project before they start paving. The pre-con for State Highway 65 was done Monday at the highway shop. They have a start date of May 15th. on that one. So on May 15th, the south end of that project will close down that highway as they start on the south end for reconstruction. The official bypass goes up State Highway 46 through Amory. The other alternative for motorists, a good one, is County M, County Y, coming up that side of it. That'll have periodic closures throughout as they do culverts. With that, and that has a project completion date of September. So that's gonna be closed most of the summer. They do have some holiday restrictions in there as they go through different phases of that they can't close it down. That's kind of where we stand on current projects that I didn't report on last month at the county board. We're moving along with that. In your packet, I did put a copy of our materials list that was approved in March. This is we go for spring RFPs. That's this one here. You can note that in the minutes that this was approved in March. So they are give an idea. That's always a question on what our materials cost and have they gone up. Asphalt went up about $2 a ton on our projects. So these are vendors we use with that. The other one in your handout is the financial report for 2022 for highway. We just got the letter back late last week from the auditor signing off on our funds to close our books at highway. And with me, I have Carrie Olson, who's office manager at highway. And kudos to her because she ends up closing the books for highways and does a lot of work with doing the auditor independently. It shows right now we came up to the positive. We added about $100,000, $104,000 to our fund balance. So we're sitting a little over $3 million in our fund balance right now with that moving forward. So Carrie does a great job with that, running the office and keeping the other projects online. So just wanted to get that out as soon as I could to everyone with that. The other one in your packet was State Highway 43, the Osceola Bridge has a public meeting May 10th where they'll announce the proposed plan for the replacement of the bridge. They had 3 alternatives they were looking at 1.5. 1.5 alternatives, they've got it down to 1. They'll release it on that date. And after this meeting, it will be available online at the website on this one.
I
So
didn't get that one, I don't think. I didn't.
on there, so that will be available online, that alternative. So that public information meeting's on there. And there is a Zoom call, I believe, on there that if you go to the website, you can phone in for it to see what it is. The other couple things on there, the shared salt shed project in Frederick. I enclosed a map here. The town and village reached out to me to ask if we co-share with reconstructing that salt shed north of Frederick there by the high school for highway. It'll be a great thing for the state to have salt that far north. I'm working with the state to see what kind of funding that would be with the state. They have allocations for new salt sheds since Polk County is under their quantities they want stored in Polk County. The amount of contribution from the state or the county would be about $60,000. But it would save time and money for both county and state routes, having to drive back from Frederick all the way to Balsam Lake to get materials. So long-term working on that. Highly unlikely this will be done this year. It'll probably be like a 2024 project, 2025 project. So we'll be working on that one. This dynamic speed sign, number E on there. That study is, I was approached again by the Lake Association on Half Moon about putting speed signs on either end, the dynamic speed signs where you come in and it shows you flashing your speed. They wanted the county to erect those before the 35-mile-an-hour zone down there. Our past practice and procedure has always been that we allow them in the right of way, but the municipality has to pay for them. Like when you come into Osceola or any of those ones, the city or village pays for those signs. We want to be kind of consistent on that, not open the door that we get requests for these all over where we have speed reductions. So I'm working with the Lake Association to see if they're entertaining that would want to fund those signs. They're about $3,000 to $4,000 per sign. So they're
Where do they want it?
they want it on the north or the east and west end of Half Moon, where we go to a 35-mile-an-hour zone. I did an investigation the last 5
County Road
years.
G, isn't it?
What's that?
That's
No.
County Road G.
County Road G, yes.
Oh, gee.
Yeah, G. I did an investigation for accidents. There's only been 4 accidents down there in the last 5 years. Through that stretch, most have been distracted driving or teen driving, with one rollover with this distracted teen driving. So just to make you guys aware that I am working with that if you're approached by the Lake Association, for the county to contribute, but I am working on that, trying to be consistent with our procedure as we follow through with it. That kind of sums up my 5 items.
Any questions for Mo?
Well, on County Road P there, Jay and I was out that way on Sunday. We went out to Craig Benware's. Actually out county. But is that P gonna be wider than it was?
It'll be slightly wider. It'll be a 28-foot top on there.
Looks real nice, like.
Yeah, it'll be 24-foot asphalt and then 2-foot shoulders. For the
Blacktop shoulder.
1-foot blacktop shoulders, 2-foot gravel.
Looks nice.
Couple comments I got, Mo, is we were working on that salt shed when I was the commissioner.
Yeah.
So I mean, and we looked at how much savings could happen, and how much it would help all those routes up there, so I'd be very supportive of that. And the dynamic speed signs, if we start there and start funding them, we'll go broke.
Yep.
By the time it's over, so. Just a couple of comments, and Carrie, thank you very much for your work. We appreciate it. Okay. Sheriff's report.
To start that, yes, we lost Sheriff Craig Benoit this last weekend. He was the sheriff for approximately 7 years in I believe the late 80s and early 90s. So they had his funeral on Sunday. For updates, they're starting to finishing touches to the microwave tower project and the new tower over in Taylor's Falls. They're putting the microwave dishes up the next couple of weeks. So all that should be up and running, and that project should be finalized by the end of the month. Also, our tower generators should be here by the end of the month. So all the tower stuff should hopefully be wrapped up by the beginning of the summer. So we shouldn't have to touch that for a while. In the last month, we bought a new snowmobile for rec patrol. Towsley gave us a deal we couldn't pass up, so we ended up buying the new Skidoo snowmobile from them. And just to help out, last year we put on a ton of miles on our snowmobiles. We had some of the best snowmobiling we've had in a long time. Next one is our command post. I'll have a little PowerPoint here real quick for you, and this will tie into number 12. So the command post, I brought it down to Lazy Days RV. They're the only ones now I can find that will retrofit our command post. Next slide. We came up with a diagram, a floor plan that we could utilize to upgrade it. So on, next slide. So their cost, just some of the repairs to the RV, just the mechanical repairs like the slide out and the roof, came to about $45,000. Remodeling cost was around $40,000, and technology upgrades, that's the camera systems, new radio systems, that was about another $40,000. So total cost retrofit that one on the high end about $125,000. We budgeted $200,000, so we'll be able to come under budget on that. It'll take approximately 4 months. Now, when I was there at Lazy Days RV, they asked me, "Are you here for the Medica bus?" I didn't know what they were talking about. Well, apparently Medica, when I came there, they approached them and said, "Hey, we want to donate our bus to them." So they want to donate this 2008 Tifton Alero bus to us. So we looked at it. They used it for like a mobile command medical PR gig. So they want to donate this big bus to us. Next slide. It's like I said, 2008. It's got 43,000 miles on it. $12.95 for hours on it. It's got a Cummins diesel chassis and generator, and they retailed the price on that for $319,000, and they want to give it to us for free. Next slide. It's kind of some outside pictures of it. It's got some big slide outs. It's a big usable area. Next slide. Going. So it's big slide outs, both these slide out. They had originally made some office desks here to the right, and it's got a little kitchenette and couch there. Next slide. And in the back, they were gonna do like a big like medical room, but since it didn't have two doors, they weren't able to make it a medical rig. So they just want to wash their hands for it. It's been sitting at Lazy Days for a couple of years now. They haven't used it. They don't plan to use it. So again, they want to just donate it to us. Next picture. It's got some of the things we were looking for. So it's got a, you know, a TV on the outside and different things outside that we can utilize for a command post if we want to go that route. Next slide. So what are we gonna do here after? We're hoping to get this donated to us. So if you approve the resolution, we'll get after the county board meeting and everything's passed, we'll get the rig donated to us, get it in our name. We'll get it inspected to see what else it needs. It needs some tires. Some of the tires are dry rotted on it. Some other little things that need to be done to it. And then we'll look and come up with a design for it, figure out what we could do with that rig, get an estimate for that rig to do it, and kind of go from there. And then we can just compare the two units and hopefully by June come up with an idea which one we want to use. But it's a free Allegro bus that they want to give us. That's valued at $300,000. So the green wrap on the outside peels off easily. When I was there, I was peeling it off. So come off, we just get our own wrap for it. So that kind of ties in with number 12 later on. Other than that, I don't have any other updates. Any questions for me?
The Taylor's Falls Tower isn't active at this time?
Nope, it's active right now. We just have some finishing touches like we had an ice dam. So when the cables go up to the top of the water tower, when the ice forms on it, it causes extra stress on it. We're building, there's a platform they put on there to keep the wires from sagging, keeps the ice off of them.
I'm out of town, but did you have good communication when you were working on the drowning victim down there? I mean, did you have better signal?
So we weren't directly involved in that. We helped out a little bit. I think the fire department went down there. But for the fire department, they love the new tower. It's given them a lot more reception down in that area.
That'd be a good test right there.
Mhm.
Right down the water.
Yeah, they went out and did a bunch of spot testing with Motorola to make sure it was up, you know, we had the right signals, had to kind of going in the right direction, and everything showed really good. We're waiting until the foliage grows to see how that may dampen down some of the signal, but right now it's active. We've been using it for at least 6 to 8 months now. So with good results.
Any questions?
No appearance of that body at all.
Yeah. Those waters, I don't know if you've been across the St. Croix Bridge, but those waters are moving quite fast. So,
I'm surprised how quick the river went down from about 48 hours. Just dropped.
yeah, there was a lot of speculation that body found in Hudson was the one that we lost here, but there's still several other people missing on the St. Croix River as well, so.
It'll come up. As the
Yes,
gas,
thank you.
gassy, blow it up. Very good, and no.
Mr. Chair, do you want the resolution off to the floor?
When we get to it, we get to 12 there.
I thought he was on 12. Excuse me.
Supervisor Rowdy, you're up next. On ATV, UTV.
Couple comments is that most of the club members were busy today, so that didn't work out. Rod and Mo were there and Doug Johnson. And it was more of just a general discussion on some of the trails and where they're going for the summer and different items like that. And this hasn't got anything to do with ATVs or UTVs, but I could update you on some of the thefts at the parks. It was a Kennedy Park where they for completely out of the ground, threw it off the bridge. And they have a table in there
They
too.
took a grill with the concrete and all, threw it off the bridge into the water, and then a picnic table. And that was last summer. They did that.
Yeah.
In the summer. So we've chained all the picnic tables and everything up now.
We've added 6 cameras out there. They're recording now. We can point to the entrance to the parking lots and around the park so we can see.
Is the Gandy open in the summertime?
It's open, but not to ATVs. That's a winter only ground for ATVs, and I know we're getting a lot of response as far as emails, at least I am, about they think it's open for ATVs, but it's not. Again,
Never has been? Never.
Again, you know, it's in the discussion stage now through PTAG, or they're disbanded, but that's where it's moving on right now with that consultant firm.
So there is discussion. This is some future.
There's discussion of that and some discussion, Rod can maybe explain it better.
Yeah, there's
More options.
so they're discussing the possibility of equestrians on the Gandy as well. But they're looking at not just putting them on the Gandy, but it's also, they're looking at possibly having a parallel route, a right of way as well.
If I may, it's a feasibility study that the PTAG and the board approved. And so we are doing that. In fact, tomorrow in environmental services, there will be a presentation from the consulting firm who did the feasibility study. We'll be talking about some options, challenges, ideas, that type of thing. But this is, we're not there yet. It's a feasibility study, to see what's possible and decide if we want to proceed in any way.
John, as usual, the rumors are out there that it has opened to ATVs. We've already made that decision. And people are writing and saying, why did we ever do it? And why, you know, but it hasn't happened. That's what I explained.
Right.
People ask me, and I wasn't aware of that. To me, that were a lot. They come in from as far as county sales tax.
It's just in a steady state, that's all.
Yeah, well, I'm sure appreciated that it's in the study phase. Always have future vision.
Isn't the Gandy open somewhere in Burnett County? ATVs? I think that's causes the. That's which county you're in.
Mhm.
I don't believe it is. Not the Gandy.
Oh, not even in Burnett?
Burnett County, that's up by Danbury, they're open.
The Gandy?
But no, they got big.
I thought they were.
Sure.
We can ask that tomorrow in
Okay,
environmental services.
I'm gonna come just to listen to that. Because I've been confused for years too. Not only on that, obviously.
Likewise,
Somewhere along the line, we have to decide. We need more tax sales, or do we need, and less kicking people off the trail so that the UTV can run? Gandy's designed to be used by a certain group. The county did a study and made a plan to put those people on that trail and kept them on there. So, you know, it's a big deal.
Mhm.
A lot of people involved. So. Okay, update on CJCC.
I'd see Melissa online. I'd be happy to provide that, sir. Big week for CJCC folks last week because it was the annual TAD conference down at the funding group for CJCC diversion programs down at the Dells. I know we had a number of attendees. Haven't heard yet back the key points and takeaways, but Melissa can share that with you at a future meeting. In terms of participants in our diversion programs, I've got us down for 2 in diversion, 8 in treatment court with the recent graduations and a termination, 2 in first-time offender, 11 in IDP. That's the intoxicated driver program. For a total of about 23. Just to put that in some context, and, sheriff can correct me, deputy sheriff, often have 89, 92 folks over in the jail. So about a 4-to-1 ratio of incarcerated folks to diversion. So just want to give you that little bit of context.
No questions? Okay, thank you. We need discussion, possible action regarding resolution 2023 to accept the donation of the 2000 Tiffin Alero motor coach from Medica.
I move for acceptance of the resolution 2023.
For discussion on priority. I'll come back to that.
What?
Oh, I missed the priorities discussion on.
Oh.
That was yours.
Yeah.
So we'll clean this up and come back to you. Get a second.
I'll second that.
Motion made in second to forward resolution 2023 to the county board for consideration. All those in favor?
Aye.
I think that's just to the- Takes one past that.
Okay, Vince, you want to talk about priorities? We'll
Yeah,
Jump back up.
I just wanted to follow up quickly. You saw the presentation from Bob and Carrie from PW Extension. Passing out here a couple of slides, just to let you know kind of the next steps again. This nice graph right here, this pile of spaghetti. Really all it says is the 4 priorities that we had 3 years ago are on there, and it shows how we kind of tried to illustrate how the work and the energy and the focus intensified over time, and then it slows down a little bit. And then now we will start ramping up on other priorities. And so the 2 new ones that are added on here are supporting housing initiatives and improve county infrastructure. So what we did after the last meeting is we've now gone to each division and said, here are some logical assignments that you and your staff want to be involved with. And you can see on the back page of that first one, the potential assignments by division. And then the next page is a work plan that each division is going through. So for example, Bob has already done this with his staff. Tanya has met with her staff as examples, and they'll say, okay, if these are our longer term goals, what are some objectives? What are some things that from our expertise and our knowledge of the situation can we recommend? And then they will start laying out specific actions. The hope is by this time next month, Mo will be able to present to you, for example, things on improving our infrastructure. And we'll be talking about steps and actions to make recommendations to you so that you all can review it and start discussing what else you might want done and or maybe how to prioritize those things. And then on the back page, this is simply what we did 3 years ago and some of the objectives that came out under each one. So at this point, it's too soon to say we've got specific plans in place, though we are developing them now. You may have heard of a few, but by this time next month, we'll have more things for you guys to kick around.
Questions, anybody? Okay, then we'll get back to discussing possible action regarding resolution 22-23, request the state of Wisconsin use portion of the 23 budget surplus for maintenance, repair, replacement county trunk highway system.
Yeah, this is a lobbying resolution. And I think it's right in line with goals that you all set, long-term goals. How do we improve our infrastructure, our highways and so on? And this is something that we think we can submit to the WCA, to the governor and all the counties to say, we hope that those surplus funds can be utilized to help here in the local government. I don't know, Mo, if you had anything.
No, it lobbies the state to assign some of the overages to GTA funding and LRFS, you know, to help not only the counties, but our towns.
Looking for a motion.
Make that motion.
Motion made. Here's a second.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Forward resolution 22-23 to the state. All those in favor, so do I by saying aye.
Aye.
14, discussion regard rural address system for home court in the town of Garfield.
Now, unless one of you had something to comment or to add into that agenda, this was something that was to be addressed at Environmental Services 2 weeks ago. And it got tabled, I believe, until tomorrow. Or if not tomorrow, it's next week. So I don't think there's anything to add here other than, there's been some ongoing conversations with our Environmental Services Division, Environmental Services Committee, and this Holmes Court addressing. I didn't know if the Sheriff's Department had anything to add on that or not.
No, just that from the sheriff's department standpoint, we just want a unified 911 system in which we can get first responders to the address as soon as possible. So,
Yeah, I think Bob will be here when we do something with this or have anything to report. And I think that's why it was put on the agenda.
And I think this committee has been addressing that issue for forever, hour after hour, and I'm happy to pass it on to any other committee.
Mr. Chair, I got a call from Joel Hazard and he regretted that he couldn't be here. He got COVID. And he was on a trip and he got COVID. I couldn't hardly understand him. He's sick. And he said that he did have a petition 2 years ago. Question is, somebody down on the end split a lot. And so they didn't have an address for everyone. He said they did sign the petition the last time and they were willing to have a shared driveway. Anyway, and this, like Jay says, this has been on our agenda a long time. I asked a question at the steering committee. Andy Phillips was next to me. And so I said, how did this all come about in the state of Wisconsin? So the county roads are, this is what information I got. The county roads are all supposed to be on an alphabetical system. The state highway, they're supposed to be on a numerical system. The fire numbers are all supposed to be on a numerical system. And the town roads, for the most part, they believe that it should reflect the heritage of Wisconsin. Back in the 70s, I was on a Farmington Town Board when this came up. And so we matched the north and south roads with the numerical system with the town of Somerset. And the east and west roads, we named them as much as possible. In Farmington, there's Cherry Lane. In Alden, there's Church Road. have a chance to reflect the heritage. You see the same thing in Minnesota, like Highway 95 over in Minnesota was just all named and signed as St. Croix Trail. And when you have like Holmes Court that's been there forever, and the names of these roads, it reflects the heritage of the state of Wisconsin. I talked to Allied Fire, Osceola Fire, Amory Fire, and they're very familiar with like Holmes Court as a name. And our zoning administrator have been trying to change this. And the people on Holmes Court unanimously reject that. As the supervisor, I take an oath of office to represent the people's wishes. And I see no reason in the world why it can't remain the same. I think there's a lot of personal things of one department.
Yep. Insight. My memory isn't the best all the time, but we've been doing the addressing out of this committee, and we postponed it because we were going out west, and then we were going to discuss it again. I was coming out of here, not out of environmental services.
Yeah, I was out of town 2 weeks ago myself, but I remember talking with Bob about afterwards. I don't know if Jay, you were at the environmental services last time, but I thought
Jason comes here. Gives us an update. So-
I think it's been on this committee as long as I can remember.
Well, it's not an environmental services.
it's not.
It is.
Yeah.
And they have been addressing it. And I think the emergency services is highly involved with zoning.
Right.
And Jason. And to ensure that these things can be compatible with the system. That's the problem that we're confused on, or I'm confused on, now, whether or not everybody else is or not, I don't know. But
This has been addressed,
it has been thoroughly discussed.
community, neighborhood after neighborhood of people who come and to this date, we've been working out a resolution with each of those. I think the challenge is much like, we said with the electronic signs. If you do it for one neighborhood, then every neighborhood's gonna come in and say, don't change mine. And
I
kind
think
of defeats
that's,
the intent.
that's part of the consideration.
Yeah.
I looked at this back in 1978. The engineer that was hired by the county to readdress this county. I think I finally sat down with the third one. It blows their mind because of the lakes and the rivers and the roads that we've got here that don't comply with the east, west, north, south rules. It might be fine in South Dakota, but it doesn't work here. And that's part of the problem. And I think Bob is pretty much familiar with it. It's nice to see him around, take the pressure off everybody else. Go ahead. I think
It's on the agenda here, and I don't know if it was placed on here because we thought we'd have something to follow up on after environmental services, but maybe you can give us a status update of Holmes Court.
Holmes Court is in the town of Garfield. I'm not the best position to talk about the specific example, but we do have a county ordinance that is, the goal is to eventually have all of our non-conforming addresses aligned with the grid system. And a lot of it has to do with, for EMS, for police and fire, to accurately find and locate these addresses. That's ultimately the goal. Ordinance was passed in 2019. Actually, here in the near future, we're going to make the transition from analog, or you've all heard of Next Gen 911. So that's forthcoming. That's a transition from analog to web-based notification through our PSAP and our GIS system. So we're trying to align some of these archaic, non-conforming addresses to conform with Next Gen 911. The US Postal Service has issues with our addressing, particularly if an address has an alpha character in it. They simply cannot deliver mail anymore because of their automated systems. Holmes Court, like other folks, are I'm not super familiar, but this is not uncommon. Some people get attached to their historical name. And there's a little bit of pushback because they have to change their checkbooks or sign on them. Some of the towns are willing to not only switch to the new assigned rural address, but also include on the road the historical road names. So does that provide any context or new information at all?
I think one of the important things that Bob indicated is that this is the county's ordinance. So it's not a zoning administrator making a decision to change addresses. It is staff enforcing your county board's ordinance. In addition to that, it's going to provide safety. It was a joint effort between the land information staff and law enforcement, both agreeing that this is very important in the long run. And while there might be certain staff or folks who are providing emergency services who are aware of Holmes Court, when everything goes down, if everything goes down and you're bringing in folks from wherever to try to help with a disaster, they're going to be basing themselves on a system that's going to have these anomalies, and it will put them in danger in the long run. So it's the safest thing to do.
Along that subject then, one lawyer to another, what's the specter of liability in a situation where, you know, and I think this was raised the last time we had this conversation, you know, of confusion reigning because of these anomalies and the inability to timely, you know, address an emergency, as remote as that possibility is, you know, is there concern that way too?
Sure, in larger metropolitan areas where you have a lot more life-threatening emergencies, it's not uncommon to see wrongful death lawsuits because of some glitch that caused maybe a 5-minute delay in when somebody would have arrived to provide services. And they're not only going to sue the municipality and the service provider and the, you know, the dispatch center, they're going to sue everybody and see what sticks, of course. So yeah, of course, there's some concern about liability, but I think the biggest thing is long-term safety. And so that's why I went and snagged
We're
Bob.
actually getting inundated because so many towns, town of Lincoln, for example, Beaver, Eureka, McKinley, the town of Balsam Lake, the town of St. Croix Falls, using a windfall from the pandemic, ARPA money, have been ordering signs. And we have a great reciprocal relationship where we do a cost share for that. We're really struggling with the demand for some of the towns to make this conversion and solve the problem of these non-compliant addresses in which EMS may or may not be able to find. The argument we hear a lot is, well, I've been on the fire department 25 years. I know where, you know, Grandma Smith lives. So why are you changing my address? Well, we all know, particularly with fire departments, it's tough to recruit, to retain new firefighters because of the training, more robust training requirements. There's going to be some turnover. And so maybe over time, not everyone's going to be familiar with their neighborhoods, and we have a lot of mutual aid. So just a way to, again, find conformity throughout the county, so EMS can find these addresses and homes in the event there's a fire or heart attack or whatever.
Good example of that analogy would be the ambulance service. These people were residents, they knew the area and they're familiar with Rumka Drive or whichever place you might call that they're familiar with. However, the ambulance service combined with Northwest now, and there are people that have no idea, vaguely know where Amory is, much less the services and some residents around there. So it does change. And it's nice that Steve's got the story about the lady that knows where everybody lives and can describe the color of their mailbox in order to get them there. But those people are changing. They're gone. So we got to rely on the emergency services that are offered. And all that I can hope for or ask is it compatible to our emergency service? Don't want anybody left out. Once we can come to that conclusion, then I think we've got a workable plan. But up until then, I don't know. We're signing now, and you're absolutely correct. There are some, we got signs that we can't, are places that we can't get a sign for because there isn't such a thing.
So we're assigning several new addresses as well.
Right.
Particularly those with like alpha characters, or
Right.
there's just not enough
You don't have it.
lots. Yeah. So we're running a lot of that in Lincoln. So we're just trying to get this cleaned up. Should have been done actually a few years ago.
Quite a few.
Yep.
My opinion is, we have an ordinance, we need to comply. If there's a problem where law enforcement or an ambulance or anybody's having a problem with an address, they need to bring it to somebody's attention. It needs to be corrected. This isn't something I feel a committee or the county board should get involved in unless you want to rewrite the ordinance. Because it works so well, just.
I thought we had an agreement that it could remain Holmes Court and the numerical number.
That was our conclusion last.
Yeah,
time.
and now it came up again. I think in the last 3 months, I just went to the steering committees at Wausau, Stevens Point, Wisconsin, Dells, and Wisconsin Rapids. And I stayed off of the freeway and I went down these state roads, Highway 10, 77, 16. And I also work for a car dealer and I go all over pretty much state of Minnesota and Wisconsin. And I'll challenge you, when you're coming down these roads, you never see a numerical number until I got to St. Croix County. It's all Birds and Old Mill and Church Road, and they all have their numbers. And I've watched going down the road as much as I could and never saw any. So it's not totally through the state of Wisconsin. I don't see no reason why we can't just leave it Holmes Court and a number.
Well,
I don't think these people should have to eliminate it from their wills and driver's license and whatever. I thought that's the agreement we had 2 years ago, and now it came up again. I don't have a horse in the race besides we take an oath of office to listen to the people that we're supposed to represent. And I talked to these fire people and they got no problem.
all this emergency services, are the ones that we want to talk to and make sure that they're compatible with their.
I think they're pretty well schooled as to.
I don't know.
Even with our system right now, we talk an ambulance in a lot of times. These people come from the Twin Cities. They don't know our address system. We gotta talk them into a scene.
Yeah.
So you start, numbers are easy to recognize you're going down the road, there's a fire number in every house. You know what cross street you're coming up on and follow the grid right through. But these people come from the cities, they have no idea.
Well, it's all right to have this number, but they can also remain Holmes Court. I thought that's agreement we had.
If you had that agreement, it probably shouldn't have happened. The county board shouldn't get involved in writing sidebars to an ordinance that they already have, in my opinion. I'm pretty opinionated on this, you know, but because I use it all the time.
I think the agreement was to allow the historic sign name to be placed.
Right.
So that, but the official address would be the new address. It would just be,
Right on the end is the avenue or the street.
right, and so then underneath it, it would say Holmes Court for that sort of nostalgia
And
purpose.
there's lots of As and Bs and Cs. So I mean, if that gets you there, if you run out of street, and you got a new address and it's enough, the next street or avenue, and it's an A or a B,
I think the problem with Holmes Court though is it's not 600 number, it's an 1800 number is what it needs to be.
Mr. Chair, I can add a little bit. If you wouldn't mind.
great. Might as well get to it.
Sorry I was late to the conversation, so if I repeat anything that Bob's already said. We took and went through an address change and it was only partially implemented on Holmes Court. Before we did the change, just like any change, we worked with the town board. And I actually had contacted Mark Knutson, which was the fire chief and that for what used to be Dresser Osceola Fire Department. They call it DOG. Now it's Allied. He's still the fire chief. They were very in support of the address changes. So we went through, we changed it, sent out the normal address change letters like we do. We had a lot of public comment that came back before the Public Safety and Public Works Committee at that time from some people on the road there that didn't want their addresses to change. At that time, we had an interim county administrator, Jeff Fugie. And actually, it's right here. This was in 2019, by the way. And basically, the Public Safety, Public Works Committee was working with Fugie. And they came up with the solution and that to take anybody that applied on that or had a formal written complaint to us, that they would get to keep their Holmes Court address. But then Fugie's interpretation of the ordinance was the new dwelling at the end, which was what triggered the change, is because we had a new house and we didn't have any address to assign that would comply. That new house and anybody that wanted to keep the new addresses so that they could be found, that they would be able to keep their 1800 address block. And the issue with Holmes Court, there's roughly between 27 and 30 addresses. And it's only roughly a quarter of a mile north of County Road K, which is 60th Avenue, wraps around the south end of Big Lake there. So in an address block, we got basically 0 to 100, quarter of a mile gives us, 0 to 25. So it was in the 600 block. So we had from 600 to 625. Evens and odds, and that gives us roughly 12 to 13 addresses per side of the road. And like I said, we just had between 27 and 30 addresses along this road. A few of them were on the back, a handful, but all the other ones were on the lakeside. So almost every number that was on the lakeside had a alpha character, that with it. So 601, 602, they all had A's following them. And so that's why right now we've got two different address ranges on that road. We've got 600 block Holmes Court, which those are assigned as if the road was a street. And our solution to the issue was, because you got Big Lake there, assigning it as an avenue, because then we can extend that range as if the road was going out into the middle of the lake to give us more address numbers and still be in compliance. And so then we're in the 1800 block as an avenue. So that's why they have 1800 addresses out there and 601, 603 Holmes Court addresses.
So we went through and back then we ordered all the signs. We had them all ordered. And the town refused to put them up. And so that's where the conversation came before you guys a couple months ago. That new house owner at the end, it still has not had an address sign put up. They're having issues because of this impartial change in that, kind of a mixture of both. And that being able to be used. And so that decision was a decision made by, and that the county board at that time. And so I couldn't act on it because I would either be violating that choice of the county board or I'd be violating our addressing ordinance. So that's why we brought it back to you guys as public safety, public works, because you're the ones that can make that call. So that's what I've got on it. So we've done a lot of these. In March of last year, we received an email out of the blue from the US Postal Service down in Milwaukee. And they were saying that Polk County's addressing system is very unique, having the alpha suffix on the addresses, and that their mailing machines or their mail sorting machines were having issues sorting out the A's and the B's. And so they're definitely on board with these changes. It takes about 2 weeks for them to update their computer system in Milwaukee. And then we do all the letters and stuff out to people. The town of Bone Lake did a bunch of them, and that roughly 200. And those were the ones that we were trying to fix, was the alpha characters. We've done West Sweden now. Lincoln is going through the process right now. Beaver, we did. We've got 6 other towns in that jumped on board for 2023. Basically, in short, about half the county right now on that. We've corrected all of the bad addresses in. It's been a partnership with the towns because the towns have the ARPA funds available that they can use on this kind of project, and it helps everybody that has an address in the town equally. So there's been a good cooperation between many towns on this. But this one here is definitely a bad situation because it's got both address ranges on the same piece of road. But we do keep the historic road name signs and that, or we suggest to the town. Ultimately, the towns are responsible for the signage on their roads. But we do suggest keeping that as the historic, but all the fire numbers go back to the current or the new address. So any other questions? Sorry to get too much in detail, but.
So there isn't any reason why they can't have their same mailing address, but have a assigned number for the street or avenue. So when the call comes in as 1423 60th Avenue. It doesn't mention the street, comes in as 60th Avenue.
Right.
Anybody responding then would know to go to that number on 60th Avenue. But keep the street name out of the 911 system.
Exactly.
And put
So
street and the number.
I'm gonna just use County Road K because we're in that area. And that if you look at the GIS map, you'll see, 1400 60th Avenue, County Road K. For the 911 and for most people's mail, they use that 1400 60th Avenue and they leave off the County Road K. That'd be the same type of deal, and that it'd be 62nd Avenue, Holmes Court. So that's what we need to do. And then it's all on one address range. So they'd be all 1800 numbers versus having 600s and 1800s literally right next door. So there's 3 1800 numbers out there right now. And then the other 24 and that are in the 600s. So.
What about that one on the end? That's on that.
And the one on the end, and that is coming off from the 62nd Avenue address and that as well. I can't remember if it's even or odd and that, but those are always tough for us to decide. But basically when we come to a cul-de-sac or a dead end, we try to take in picture if this road was to extend on, if the property's on the east side, it's going to be an even. If it's on the, west side, it's going to be an odd, so we try to for future planning, but you can never guess, that exactly how things are gonna shake out. That's why we've got a lot of these As and Bs out there. There's one right over here on County Road I. We were actually approached by the property owner and said, hey, this has got to be fixed. It was like 1747, double A, 175th Street, County Road I, Balsam Lake. That's quite an address, and they're like, this is, we're having all kinds of problems. And it goes by who built first. So if you got a private drive that goes back in there, maybe the first one we got 1747. Then the next one, maybe 3-4 lots down, past staff assigned it an A. Then maybe the one up by the original house got built on, and now that one's a B, and now D might be all the way at the end. So they're very, not in a sequential order. And I think the sheriff's department can tell you that. You drive into some of these places and you have no idea because there is no signs. So when we do these changes and that, though, most of the time, or I shouldn't say most, all the time, those signs go back to where each property is, just like if you were driving down a town road or a county road. So where their driveway meets that road. So.
Yeah, I see Sterling did it. My south driveway is now 395th,
Yep.
295th.
Yep, we did it. And it doesn't change the maintenance of the roads at all. It's just for a physical location and that, so.
Fire numbers, there's 3 fire numbers on there because there's 3 people who live back there. Mine's not one of them, but now as soon as you turn on that street, let the numbers coincide with the sides of the driveway.
Yeah.
Which helps you. You're not looking for all that A and B and stuff. You're looking for the number.
And if you're responding to it, and if you're driving, and that, and you come across 280th, that you got 1.5 miles to go north in order to hit 295th, so. Once you know the addressing system for the county, basically you can drive anywhere and not look at a map, so. Any other questions for me?
Thank you. Thanks for clarification. I guess I'm still a little confused whether this is still our area for its environmental service.
I apologize. I think I was confused too.
Yeah, so I can add on that. Originally, this started in the Environmental Services Committee, but through the rural address ordinance publication and original enactment, and that I believe the county board's intentions were, if this is a matter that's gonna involve public safety and EMS, first responders, or sheriff's department, that's really the wheelhouse of you guys. And so you guys are the ones that can offer a waiver to the addressing ordinance, and that's how it's actually called in the ordinance, is if somebody comes with all the people signed on that road and that saying, if we don't want our address to change, and if they make a good case to the public safety, public works committee, you guys could waive the ordinance change and that, or the address change on those people.
Is it a 100% petition?
100%, and that need to take and sign off on it. And that's all the property owners too, not just people with addresses, because they may have an address down the road that then they would be impacted by. So
Could be a seasonal or farm field.
That's the problem that we're having on that house on the end. I
that,
don't agree with the rest of them on Holmes Park,
right.
because they can't get mail. The Postal department says, well, you don't exist in our government.
And I think she had some, concerns about her kids not being able to apply for scholarships and that, because online they have to have a valid address.
Yep.
Setting up certain accounts, how you type in your address and it says use this address instead, that kind of stuff is what I think they're having issues with.
How could we respond to something like that?
So they don't have 100% yet.
They don't have one.
They don't have 100% of that, so we tried to switch it over 100%, and then it was taken back by that county board action, and that not to do it 100%. And that's what's created the issue in that right now. And it's worse than even just having a non-compliant address, because a lot of these search engines, Google and Bing, don't recognize two address ranges within the same road. And that if you've been down in the cities, you hear many times and that all of a sudden you hear a road transition from, Joe Street to Swan Street, and it's fine. But those all have the same address range. They're all gonna be in the 600s. The issue with the one on the end is we're maxed out on our addresses. So if we were to give an address at the end that would try to comply with the grid system, it would go less than 600. So it would need to be like 598 or 599, which then if you're responding, 598 or 599 is south of County Road K. And that, which then people are going to be turning the wrong way. And we're likely certain that the GPSs are going to be south of County Road K2 when they locate that address. And so that's where that wasn't really an option for us. And so the only other option would be is to sign an alpha character to that new house, which was against county address. So yeah, we were in a tight spot, and that we didn't have any thing. We tried to do our due diligence ahead of time. We got the town chair to approve in writing in an email. Did they since change that back and that so that they do not approve? We contacted the fire chief to let them know what's going on. I'll go down.
Remain confused.
I think then what the committee can do is when folks come and have these concerns, explain the situation and support staff. Because they're simply trying to enforce the ordinance as passed. I think that's what this committee can do when these issues arise.
Where did these ordinances come from? Did these people have any input in the ordinance?
County order.
Yeah. And then the addressing ordinance actually came about because of the Holmes Court situation. And back in 2019, I think you were on the committee, Doug, at that time here, and that there was many meetings and that where they were here. They actually had PowerPoint presentations that they had prepared. They were very involved in that process and that with the addressing ordinance. And then ultimately it was the county board enactment of the ordinance that took effect. There was an amendment to that ordinance here in the spring of 23, just to take and bring it into the same kind of wording and that you guys had before you. And that, but no policy changes. This isn't anything new because of that new ordinance amendment. I want to make sure that's clear. This is something that's been going on since the original. So.
Okay. That all the comments we have? That was a big one. Let's see, work plan. Do an update. Everything moved on that. Subject matters for the next meeting.
Update from highway. All your failed culverts.
Hearing none, I take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
I
had that.
Right.